Hi guys, Team RC 3D Prints here again, and just a little video here on talking about receivers. We've got a variety of receivers here, and the reason for it is we've actually got to replace one of the antenna wires on one of our KO receivers as it is. But pretty much all 2.4 gigahertz receivers work on the same principle. They're not actually a single strand wire. Back in the old days when you had 27 megahertz, it was just a single cable that came out of it, a single core cable, and you just soldered it onto the board. But with the 2.4s, they're actually a coaxial cable. So they actually have a connector in here. Pretty much all the receivers have a connector. Some of the very basic ones may have just a cable, but I would steer clear of them. As you can see, we've got all the different brands here. We've got a Sanwa one here with a cable. We've even got the Sanwa one here, which actually doesn't have an antenna on it. So that has it's actually built into this top part of the receiver. It does actually have a slightly shorter range than the ones with the cables, but nothing too much to worry about. It's the same thing with the Traxxas receivers. So here we have one of the Traxxas TQI receivers, and again that's exactly the same. It has a coaxial cable on it. If you have any damage to these cables, then it will affect the range. You'll find the car may go out of control when it goes a certain distance away from you, which is obviously the worst case scenario, but what's more likely to happen is it will go into potentially a fail-safe mode where it will just stop, it will just go dead. So keep an eye on those, and if you do need to replace them, if you watch this video, we'll show you how to do it. So to replace the receiver wire, it's the same principle with pretty much any of the receivers. The most difficult part is actually getting the replacement antenna, from what I've found. I've got one here. It's not particularly a long wire, so we'll see if that affects anything, but it shouldn't do. And also getting the receiver case to bits. They vary depending on the brand. Now, some of them, this one here, for example, has got 4 little screws, so that's easy to get to bits. And ironically, that's one of the cheaper ones we've got in front of us. The Sanwa one here, as you can see, it's got little tabs on, and they are, if I get the right side, they've got little tabs on the end there. There they go, and they're a nightmare to get to bits. And the KO one is exactly the same. I've actually already taken this to bits off camera, but I will just run through how we get them to bits. So here you can see our KO receiver, which we've already taken to bits off camera. Now these receivers, particularly like the Sanwa ones, are very expensive. You're getting on for 70, 80, nearly £100 for some of these. So you need to look after these. And if it's a cheaper receiver, I wouldn't be too worried. But with these ones, you want to look after it and get it to pieces as neatly as possible so you don't do any damage. Now, the first step, I'll show you on the Sanwa one, is you need to get into these little tabs. Now, you need a small screwdriver, and you just need to push that in very gently. You don't push it too hard because you will snap the tab off. I'm actually going to do that off camera. Well, I've done it off camera already with this one. But a little trick I've found is just to heat this up, particularly if it's cold. In the UK here, it's in the winter, so things are quite cold and brittle. Heat them up with a hot, not a hot air gun, with a hairdryer. Hot air gun will get them too hot. The concentrated heat from a hot air gun will probably melt it. Use a hairdryer on a hot setting and just heat the case up. It makes the tabs more compliant to get to pieces. So we've already managed to tease our KO1 to bits, and you can see there are the tabs. There's another tab. All 4 tabs are in one piece. You've got a little grommet there which the cable goes through, and there's also a little button that goes into the housing on the top there to touch that button there. So here is our aerial. Now it's not soldered on, it is just a push fit, and it just comes off just like that. And here is our new one. You can't really make these up yourselves. They're basically a mini coaxial connector. That's what you need to search for. The cable length, I'd have liked this to be a bit longer, if I'm totally honest with you. You can see the sort of lengths that this is what the original cable was before it broke off. It's that long, and the new one is a little shorter. So we may have some issues, but we'll see how it goes. And it's a simple case. To put it back on, you literally line that up with that and just push it on, and you'll hear it snap or click, and there it is. It's on there. So there we go, we have that on there just off camera. I've just checked to make sure that's gone okay. You need to be a little bit careful with these, as some of these receivers are dual layer boards. There's 2 boards in there, so you've got to be sure when you push them down you're not actually putting any stress on those board joints. So we can now slide the grommet over the end, And we will now put this back in the case. And this will be exactly the same process for any receiver that you've got. If it's a receiver you're not sure on, then drop me a message and we'll have a look, but it's the same process for all the receivers. So we get that back in the box like that. So with that back in the box, we can then put our little button on there like that. And then we'll line up our tabs, and it should, he says, just be a push fit. There we go, we've got our button there. Just make sure that that grommet is in there correctly, which it is, and that is that receiver done. Again, if it was a screw fix, you'd just be putting the screws back in there, and that is good to go. So that's a simple process, changing a receiver cable. Make sure, as I say, that you get the one with that mini, that's the old one, mini coaxial connector. They're quite easy to do, it just pulls off. So as long as you can get your receiver to bits okay, easy done. And while we're talking about radio gear, we have here our KO handset which we use. Now it normally has a long aerial like this, which a lot of the sets do. Various different brands do. Some are detachable, which is great. And what I've done, I've actually put one of these stubby aerials on it. So that's a good little upgrade. If you want to do that, it doesn't affect the range. It actually gives you slightly better response times from what I've found. And there's also less damage because it's getting damaged, or less chance of this getting damaged. So, little short video there. Perhaps not the most interesting, but we had to do this job anyway. I actually got another one of these receivers to do. So we thought we'd make a video of it so you guys can see, if you have to do this, what to do. As I say, if you're having any radio problems, first thing is obviously check you haven't got flat batteries in your transmitter. And again, it's the same for any transmitter set or any car setup. Then check your aerial cable. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and we'll be back again soon. Thanks very much.